The first time his hands brushed mine, should have pulled away. I should have remembered the vows I had spoken years ago, the promises I had sworn to keep. But there was something about that night, something about the way the cold air outside seemed to sink into my bones, that made me crave warmth, and he carried it in abundance. His voice was velvet, low, almost sinful, and it cut through my defenses faster than I was ready for. We were sitting too close, closer than two people like us were supposed to. Married woman. Taken man. Strangers, yet dangerous mirrors of what we both longed for. "Do you feel it?" he whispered, leaning close enough that I could feel his breath brushing the sensitive curve of my neck. And I did. God, I felt it, my chest aching, my skin burning, every nerve screaming at me to run, yet my body leaning into him instead. Before I tell you how far this went, let me pause for a second. Because if you're listening to my story right now, if you're drawn in by these forbidden edges of my life, then I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it. Because the truth I'm about to unveil is not just a confession, it's an invitation. An invitation into the cold nights that turned devastating, but also unforgettable. Now, back to that night. We were supposed to be discussing work, just papers, contracts, and numbers. But papers got ignored, contracts became excuses, and numbers blurred into shadows when his hand slid lower, brushing my knee, holding it there as though he owned every inch of me already. "You're shivering," he said softly, though he knew it wasn't from the cold anymore. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to say that I was fine, that I didn't need him to warm me. But instead, I whispered the one word that betrayed me: stay. The hotel room smelled faintly of whiskey and cologne, and as the night deepened, so did my surrender. The devastation didn't come from the cold outside, it came from the heat we lit between us, a fire so reckless it consumed my resistance. That was the beginning, my downfall, my secret, my addiction. And as I look back, I wonder if the cold was only ever a cover for what I truly craved, to be devoured by him, to feel alive again, even if it meant losing myself piece by piece. I should have stopped. Every voice in my head screamed that the fire he lit in me would one day burn my whole house down. But the nights were too cold, the emptiness too heavy, and his presence too tempting. There he was again, standing in the dim parking lot of that small motel, leaning against his car, looking like the very sin I promised myself I would never touch again. His eyes found me before my heels even clicked against the concrete, and that smile, that knowing, dangerous smile, pulled me closer before I had a chance to breathe. "You came," he whispered, brushing his lips against my ear as if we hadn't already lost ourselves a dozen times before. And yes, I had come. For him. For the warmth he carried in his arms, the heat that kept me from freezing in a marriage that had long turned into ice. Before I continue, I want you, yes, you listening right now, to pause and tap that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video if you've ever felt the pull of a secret you couldn't resist, even when you knew it was dangerous. And share it too, because you never know who else is hiding behind their own cold nights. Inside the room, I melted into him. His kisses were urgent, almost rough, as though he was trying to devour every breath I had left. My body, once tired and restrained by the roles I was forced to play, now thrummed with life. His hands, exploring, demanding, relentless, reminded me that I was still a woman who could feel, who could ache, who could surrender. But between the heat and the madness, a small fear crept in. What if one night we slipped? What if someone saw? What if this warmth, this secret, shattered everything I had built, even the cold walls I despised? Yet, when he pressed his forehead against mine and whispered, "Don't go cold on me, not now, not ever," I drowned that fear. Because in that moment, I wasn't a wife, I wasn't a mother, I wasn't the woman who pretended her house wasn't built on silence. I was just me. Alive. Burning. And he was the flame I let consume me, no matter how devastating the ashes would be. I remember that night like a storm pressing against the windows, the cold trying to sneak its way into my bones. But he was there, and with him, no cold ever lasted. His touch lit sparks across my skin, chasing away every frost I thought I had grown used to in my marriage. I was curled under a blanket when he came. I told myself he wouldn't show, that maybe this thing between us had burned too quickly to survive another night. But the knock on my door broke me open. The sight of him, wet hair from the rain, jacket clinging to his broad shoulders, was enough to undo me. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice low, heavy with want. I should have said no. God knows I should have. But I only stepped aside, and he stepped into me, into the space that had been too cold, too empty for too long. His lips found mine like a man starving. The kiss wasn't tender, it was desperate, punishing, like he was devouring me to prove I was his escape. My back hit the wall, the blanket falling to the floor, and I felt the heat of him breaking through every layer of my resistance. And right here, let me pause to remind you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, to like this video, and to share it with others who dare to taste forbidden confessions like mine. Because this is just the middle of what turned into the most dangerous love I've ever known. He carried me to the couch, his hands wandering like they had memorized every curve of me. My body answered without hesitation, trembling beneath his persistence. The world outside was ice, but inside, we were fire, flames licking, consuming, making me forget who I was and why I should stop. "Tell me you don't want this," he whispered against my neck, his breath scorching. But I couldn't. I wanted it too much. I wanted him too much. In that moment, the devastation began, not because of what he did to me, but because of how willing I was to let him. I let him dwell in me, fill me, warm me, even though I knew once the heat faded, the cold guilt would come crashing back. Still, I clung to him, nails digging into his back, pulling him deeper, harder, desperate to keep the warmth alive just a little longer. And that's the cruelest part of this story. Sometimes the cold isn't outside at all, it's inside you, waiting for the fire to die so it can claim you again.